The brand new Mariner class for LOTRO is now live in the game, and in this video we're gonna look at the legendary items, the traceries, and what I think will be the best builds for your legendary items depending on the line that you play in. Now throughout the video you'll find that the Mariner doesn't really have that many traceries compared to other classes, so this class will definitely be easier to build than most classes. Starting off, we can see on the legendary items tab in Rivendell that the Mariner has two options for your two allies. You can get your Mariner's Cutlass, which is a sword, and you can get your Mariner's Haversack, which is your class item. So those are the legendary items you're going to pick for your Mariner. For your Heraldic Traceries as a Mariner, I would generally recommend getting the Heraldry of the Willpower recipe and then crafting 2 of the Heraldry of the Stalwart Sparrow for the tactical mitigation bonus. Of course, if you can't get the recipes, you can just go for the standard Heraldry of the Sparrows ×2. But there is a third option if you want to add fire damage to your words of craft. Then you could go for the Heraldry of the Keen Serpent to get the critical hit chance bonus on your Heraldic Traceries. But that's really for min-maxing your damage, because you have a skill that deals fire damage with your Fire Pot skill. So in essence, that would only be to increase that one skill's fire damage. But generally, I would recommend going for the Stalwart Sparrow, or just get the normal Sparrow, or you can get the Keen Serpent if you want to put the critical hit chance on your Heraldic Tracery slots. For your Words of Power as a Mariner, in general, you want to go for damage, and you would then get the AoE damage, the AoE criticals damage, single target damage, and single target criticals damage. And the final one should be damage over time, because you do have bleeds as a Mariner. Obviously, there could be exceptions if you're playing Yellow Mariner and focusing mainly on debuffs. You would probably drop some of these, the damage ones, maybe for the increased morale, the mitigations, maybe more AoE targets. So Yellow Mariner is definitely more open-ended, but I think for sure if you're playing Blue or Red Mariner, these are the traceries that you should go for as your Words of Power. When it comes to the Mariner and their Word of Masteries, they're kind of in a unique position compared to other classes in that they don't have that many Word of Mastery traceries to select from. So this kind of make the Mariner really nice for building your legendary items. Like theoretically, you could just get 2 items like your sword and your haversack for all 3 lines. But there are some unique traceries for yellow line only that would make me make like a swap out haversack or something. But for Mariner, it seems like you'll do just fine with 2 or 3 allies for your class to cover every single line. So on the screen right now are all the 19 Word of Masteries for the Mariner, and in the middle I've put the ones I find you would pick if you go Red Mariner. Some of these in my opinion are essential and there's no questions asked. The recenter cooldown is super useful. Getting your recenter skill back sooner is very good. Saltsea Blade, increasing the duration on your Saltsea Blade debuff, makes it so that you don't have to refresh that debuff that often. And there are some obvious ones to increase your damage, like the Swordplay Finisher damage, Swordplay damage, 4 skills damage, burst damage. These are all no-brainers for any line for the Mariner. Fire Pot is very useful. It changes your Sludge Pot to become Fire Pot, increasing your DPS. And since you want to be using the Fire Pot skill, you want to get the pot skill cooldowns as well to reduce the cooldown of Sludge Pot or Fire Pot. Wind skill cooldowns is always nice, getting your shanties back sooner. Probably more useful for blue, but also for the north wind in red, it's nice to have. Plus a bottle cooldown, also nice to get a reduced cooldown of your self-heal. And then the last 2 are the ones I think are like interchangeable, depending on the lines you go for. Bottle healing to increase your toss bottle healing a bit, something you don't really need to have. And defensive swordplay buff duration is nice, of course, but also something you can live without. But I think at least the top 8 here are something you want for every line, and then the bottom 4 are probably interchangeable. But definitely for a red line Mariner, these are the 12 I would go with. If you're going to play blue Mariner, you definitely want to get Star Guidance duration, so you probably drop, I would probably drop bottle healing. If you play blue Mariner, you would drop bottle healing, and add star guidance duration. So for blue line mariner, I think this would be the best setup. I haven't really talked about the ones on the right. 4 I put on the far right are ones that I think that aren't that useful. There's some nice healing potency ones that you really don't need, in my opinion. Maybe it's something you would consider for yellow mariner, but they're kind of the weaker ones in my opinion. At least the swordplay healing potency and the shanty skills healing I think is not needed. The finisher skills reset salt cure and also increasing the incoming damage debuff duration on the salt cure is debatable if you want to get it, because it's going to be pretty rare where you remove corruption to put the incoming damage debuff on the target, where I don't think it's really worth for you to add this tracery to your build. Prone skills target resist chance is also not really needed, just get enough finesse. But this leads us to yellow line. We have 2 yellow line only traceries, and I definitely think you should get these if you play yellow mariner. Drum of the Sea cooldown and jugglery application chance are both pretty useful to have as a yellow mariner. That means we have to remove 2 from our blue/red build. Obviously we're not playing blue mariner, so we don't need the star guidance duration, and we have to remove 1 more tracery. And I think in this case you could either drop defensive swordplay buff durations or just simply drop the wind skills cooldowns. So it kind of depends if you play yellow red or yellow blue mariner, but I think you would do fine if you drop the wind skills cooldown or the defensive swordplay buff durations. I'm just going to say we're going to drop the duration of the defensive swordplay to get the must-have yellow mariner traceries. So this is the build I would have for a yellow mariner. As we can see, for all 3 lines as a mariner, I keep 10 traceries. So it's really easy to do the traceries for mariner. So this is the yellow build I would recommend, 12 you see in the middle here. And if you go blue mariner, you drop the 2 yellow ones, you add star guidance duration, and you can add the defensive swordplay buff durations. And finally, if you're going to play a red mariner, you don't need star guidance duration since that's blue only, and you can just add bottle healing, or you could of course add the finisher skills reset salt cure if you think it's going to be useful at some points, or either of the ones that do a little bit extra healing for you, but I think this would be a solid pick for red mariner. And finally, when it comes to your words of craft, it kind of depends on which heraldic traceries you're going for. Obviously, if you go for the stalwart sparrow, you would then add the heroic precision to get the critical hit chance. And on your other 2 slots, you definitely want to get the Gundabad Word of Craft Tactics recipes to get the tactical critical multiplier, the teal and the gold, so they can increase the damage of your bleeds. And if you went for the Keen Serpent as a heraldic, you don't really need the heroic precisions. In that case, I would probably maybe add Ascendant Flame just to increase the damage of your fire pot. But it's a very minimal damage increase, so I would recommend just going for the Stalwart Sparrow as your heraldic, and then adding Heroic Precision and the 2 Words of Craft Tactics as your standard Mariner build. Going for the Ascendant Flame is kind of like a min-max build for your Mariner, but in general I would probably recommend Heroic Precision and Word of Craft Tactics. And as always, if you're playing Yellow Mariner, you could always consider just adding some more mitigations if you don't really care about dealing damage that much. But for blue or red, definitely Heroic Precision and double Word of Craft Tactics. And if you're really going for a glass build with the Keen Serpent as your heraldic, then you drop the Heroic Precision and you add the Ascendant Flame. If you enjoyed the video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing, as it really helps out the channel. And if you like LOTRO, I would really recommend joining my Discord servers. You can also support me directly through my Ko-fi website. If you're playing or looking to play Lord of the Rings online, there is one place you need to be. The Ghyniverse is a Discord server created for the community of the players of Lord of the Rings Online. The server is getting close to 7,000 members, and in this server you'll find tons of helpful information. There's monthly giveaways, easy access to patch notes, you can keep up with my YouTube videos, my streams. If you're a streamer, you can ask for the streamer role and you can announce your streams in the other stream channel. There are discussion channels for pretty much everything, every class, monster players, But the best thing about this server is probably the gearing resources tab, where you can find anything from trait lines for every class, every build. There are stat goals where you can find out what stats you should aim for on your characters. Really helpful information about drop rates from instances, as well as screenshot from all the new loot that appears in the game. If you enjoy LOTRO, you should definitely consider joining this server, and hopefully I'll see you in Middle Earth. If you were part of the Ghyniverse already, you might have noticed that another tab appeared at the top, the LFF server. This server is a brand new server that I created, the LFF Ghyniverse. In this server, you can select which servers you want to keep up with, and once you select your server, say you select Arkenstone, you will see the LFF, the kinship advertisement, looking for kinship and trade channels, and there's also voice channels if people want to use those. The LFF channel is basically a looking for fellowship channel where people can post if they need players for the runs, and this way people don't have to be logged into the game to see the chat. They can just instead get a notification on their Discord. There's also a kinship advertisement page where kins can post their kinship advertisement and have people join their kins, and you can also post in the looking for kinship chat if you're looking for a kinship, but make sure to take a look in the kinship advertisement first and look through all the kin to find a suitable kin for you. There's also a trade channel if people want to buy or sell stuff that you can use. Hopefully you'll consider joining this server to bring the community even more together, not just in the game, but also outside of the game.